Hi everyone, I'm just going to quickly go over the first SPSS activity with you. I'm going to run through just real quick how to go about running the correlation and how to kind of get things set up in SPSS. So if you've opened up the SPSS file or you've downloaded the Excel file and then copied your data into SPSS, you should be seeing what we have here. Again, remember that if you have SPSS installed or the UCF apps installed on your computer locally, you should be able to just download the SPSS file. However, if you're going through the web browser version, you'll likely need to open the Excel file and then copy and paste that data into the web browser version of SPSS. Either way is totally fine and you'll end up with the same thing. You just need to know which way to handle that based on how you're accessing SPSS. So once we're here and we have our data up on the screen, you should notice you have participant number, shoe size, and reading level. From here, to run the correlation, it's actually very straightforward. All we need to do is go up to our Analyze tab up at the top and look under the category of Correlate. And the option we want to use is bivariate correlation. So this is going to be bivariate or two variables, and we're going to just look at the relationship between two variables at a time. In this case, shoe size and reading level. So go ahead and click the bivariate option, and you'll notice that all of our variables appear here. The variables on the left are everything in our data set that we can work with for this analysis, and the variable section on the right is what we want to move them into if they're going to be included in this analysis. So for us, we want to take shoe size and reading level and move those over into our selected variables. We don't need to do this for participant number because we're not actually going to be analyzing that. Once we're here, we can look at a couple options. We want to do a Pearson correlation. We're going to keep this as two-tailed, and I like to flag significant correlations. That just gives us a little indication in our results that, hey, this was a significant result. Over here on the right, we're not really going to choose any of these options. I do like to go to the Options tab sometimes and just check my means and standard deviation option. This is a shortcut and a helpful tip for you to report means rather than having to go through and do that manually. I will show you that at the end though as well. But let's check this, and we can include this in this analysis to get our means and standard deviations of the variables we've included. So we'll go ahead and hit continue there. And now this should all be set up to go. Very straightforward, very little we actually had to do here. So if I hit OK and run this analysis, it's actually going to open up a second window here that gives our output. And so in this output, you notice we have our descriptive statistics. This is because I selected that box to include my means and standard deviations. And then we also have our correlation table. Now, reading and understanding this correlation table is relatively simple once you understand how it's set up, but let me just quickly explain how this works. You'll see on the left-hand side, we have both of our variables, and on the top, we also have both of our variables. So in order to see the relationships between each of these variables, you need to find where they intersect on this graph. And so if we just zoom in here on this graph, we can see it a little bit better. And now what I want to point out again is that to find these intersection points, what you really want to do is draw a line from each of those. You can almost draw a mental line here, but I'll kind of draw one here so we can see. So if we take shoe size and we want to see where it intersects reading level here on this graph, well, this is the section we're curious about. Now I've kind of overlaid these a little too much, but let me go ahead and erase some of this. And we can see now that this is the section we want to look at, this area right here. And this pertains to our shoe size and our reading level. Now you'll notice that there's actually a second place on this table where we can find this information as well. If we look at shoe size and reading level, you'll notice that we also see them intersect in this section of the table as well. Now, the way correlation tables work is they're always going to be duplicated. You're always going to see this in two places, but that information will always be the same. It doesn't matter which one you look at. It's always going to have the same information in it. So you can see if we look at this here, let me again clear these out. We can see three pieces of information. We have our N value, or how many participants were included, in this case, 20. We have our significance level, which this is going to tell us whether or not this was a significant result or not. Remember, for significance, we look for P, or significance value, to be less than 0.05. If it's less than 0.05, then we say, yes, this is significant. If it's not, if it's greater than 0.05, then we would say it's not significant. So in our case here, we can see this is actually significant. So we know we have a significant result. And then the last piece of information we have is the actual Pearson correlation coefficient that we can see right here. And in our case, it's 0.920. Remember, this value for R is represented with the letter R, can range anywhere from -1 to +1, and anywhere on this spectrum is going to be where this number falls, anywhere. And then we also have the 0 point here, which would indicate no correlation. So anything on this side of the scale is going to be a positive correlation, and anything on this side of the scale is going to be a negative correlation. The stronger it is to these outer extremes, the stronger the correlation is, either positive or negative. And when it's close to 0 or in the middle, we see that there's actually no relationship or no correlation between the two variables. So in our case, we have 0.920. We know that that is pretty strong and positive, falling right about here, close to a really strong positive correlation. So jumping back here again, we can also notice this in our regular output by the color code that it gives us, where this green is going to tell us it's a highly positive correlation, just as sort of a check to ensure that we are understanding kind of what that means. I also quickly wanted to show you, if you didn't choose the box or click the box to run your means and standard deviations during your analysis, there's another quick way that you can look at these, and that's under the Analyze tab and Descriptive Statistics. You can run either frequencies, which is just going to count how many times things appear in your data, or descriptives, which would give you things like mean and standard deviation. So you can select whichever variables you want, go to options, and include things like mean, standard deviation, and this actually has even more options available to you. But you could do that and run this, and that's going to give you descriptive statistics. But like I said, it's sort of a shortcut to run it during your analysis, so you don't have to go through this process twice. All right, I hope that gives you enough information on how to complete this first assignment. Remember, as you're going through, use this information from your output following along to answer the remaining questions.